And welcome to this week 12 of the Lightroom tips and critique. The 7, I think, photos we've got this week. It's the first, actually. First time we've had more colour than black and white, and we've got a nice mix of landscape and architecture and a bike, actually. Okay, so I think what we'll do is 2.5 minutes on each shot, and I've just started my my little timer a bit too early there, so let's make a start on this picture here. So I'll just maximise the screen a little bit. I'm using a higher resolution, lower resolution than normal, so you can see the controls a bit better. So first impressions, it's not looking like it's a UK shot. You've got these very strange looking things here. Could be Africa, could be Central America, could be Asia, could be anywhere really, but it's definitely not Northern Europe. Compositionally, you've got the rule of thirds nicely working with the sky, 2/3 land, 1/3 sky. These two bits are placed nicely on a third intersection point, if you can visualise it. In fact, if we put the crop tool on, I've got it set to the third, so that's nicely on there. It's looking a little bit like it was overcast, so really, if you get this kind of weather, it's tricky to get a good shot. So what you could possibly do is go for a bit more of a moody kind of look. That's what's jumping out at me, because as it stands, it's just a little bit. Okay, there's a rock there. There's a rock there. In fact, I'll show you something here. If you pull this rock over, this crop over here, and here, you get this little diagonal thing going on with these two rocks. Maybe not. Well, it's just cropping it, but you know, you can see the idea, can't you? So those two are there. I mean, that's a nice thing you can do with rocks if you're shooting a lake or something like that. You've got a few boulders sticking out. Try and line them up so they're a nice diagonal rather than straight. But let's just reset that crop. So you can go crop, reset, and it'll go back to normal. So how do we make it moody? We've got 38 seconds to show you. So step 1, exposure right down. Step 2, get the whites up a bit. Step 3, let's keep. Now, one thing a lot of people do badly is deal with the highlights. A highlight that's blown out, which you then protect with the highlight slider, goes a dull grey. I think myself, my preference anyway, is to keep it brighter, because white looks better than dull grey. Oh, well, we're out of time there, but what I was going to do is add a vignette, and in effects, vignette, and you can get something quite moody like that out of it, and then you can start dodging and stuff down the bottom. Okay, so the second one, this Cyclist. Right, so I do like the road. Got this lovely swoosh going from back to front, which shows you exactly where he's been. There is, if you look back here, some interesting bokeh effects going on there. Now I'm just wondering what lens was used. So we're looking at 200mm f3.5. So yeah, you would expect it to be blurred, but I'm not sure I'd expect these little bubbles to. Maybe a lot of clarity's been applied. Well, let's just try something. So if you are getting problems with this, you go to your brush, click on clarity, dial in negative clarity, and let's just give it a little brush over. Just to soften those edges up a little bit. I mean, if you're getting halos in your photos, this is one way to get rid of them. Or minimise them. I mean, if you're getting halos, you've done something wrong anyway. It's probably too much clarity, or if you've blended a HDR, you've probably gone a little bit too far on one of the sliders. Yeah, I mean, it's a cyclist shot. It does. There's no real. It's not lens over. It's not the most dynamic of shots for me. let's just show you how the elliptical tool works. Let's make him, so let's just draw a little ellipse around him like that. And then by default, whatever you do here affects the outside. So if you do that, it brightens up the outside. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to darken the outside a little bit, something like that. Okay, and then brighten the whole thing up with exposure. So he's just, oh, it's probably a little bit too bright there, isn't it? So let's it's just to make him stand out from the background a bit. So if we go and click on our pin to reactivate it, we can then brighten everything up, and then with the main switch slider down here, we can just bring it down. Just makes him stand out from the background a bit. But yeah, love the road, but it's just the cyclist is not as dynamic as you could get, you know, if they're leaning quite a bit. Right, okay, next one. What have we got here? Ah, it's a deep up at Hull by the look of it. Yeah, it's nice composition with it, sort of pointing into a bigger space. So you've got a nice big space over here and no space there. So it's looking into this space, which is a sort of trick you use with cars, birds, people, and buildings. So if you've got like a, you know, something's pointing or looking in a certain direction, that's the way to do it. Nice bit of black and white. If anything, if you look at the histogram, the bright bits could maybe do with a bit of a boost. So two ways of doing that easily is to just get the white slider and brighten it up. Gone too far there, look, it's gone off the edge, and then what you can do is you can rescue those with the highlights. Switch that off. So does that make it any more dynamic? Maybe a little bit. So what sort of texture have we got going in the sky here? Very thunderous, isn't it? If you look, there's a bit of a dust spot there. Just there we go. Get rid of that. 2 secs of a job. And I like the reflection in the water. Actually, maybe you could have made more of that. You know, if there's a big reflection going on in the water, because if you look at the horizon, it's probably on the low side in the shot. If it was up, you know, if you think about where the third line is, again, we'll use this, it's there. So you could probably have put that horizon on that third and had a lovely big reflection at the bottom, to because I think the bottom reflection would be more interesting than the sky as it is. It is a little bit of a weird texture, this sky. I'm not sure what's going on there. Almost looks like there's quite a bit of noise going on. But yeah, good shot. I really like that one. Hope those few tips help. I mean, adding more clarity makes it look messy. So don't be. In fact, negative clarity actually makes it look quite dreamy, doesn't it? And it might help with the sky texture. Okay, next one. So another black and white. Yeah, this is how I like my architecture. Get a nice corner, and it looks like it's jumping out of the screen at you, which is what this one's doing. Looks like the World Trade Center sort of complex down at Hull. I recognise it. It's been there. So what have we got going on around here? Okay. So if anything, just by zooming in, you see this little, there's a black of the window pane, better here actually, then there's this white well, line, and if you look everywhere on the picture, here, you get this white line going on. Now what that is caused by, especially here, look, one of two things. It's either a bit too much clarity or a bit too much sharpening. What sharpening does, it brightens one edge and darkens the other edge of things to make it, you know, more stand out more. That's how sharpening works. So when you're doing a building like this, You can see it there as well, can't you? Be really careful with the sharpening. Zoom into 100%. Have a look at it. As soon as it starts to happen, pull back. Also, you will get more sharpening issues. Let's go to the sharpening panel. So if we zoom in on, well, it showed quite well here, didn't it? And if I add a bit of sharpening and then put the radius up, let's turn the radius down. What I'm trying to show is if you have a bigger radius, you get a bigger line there. But I think with the damage already having been done with the over sharpening in the first place, it's not going to have much effect on this particular example. But if it was a raw file, you could tell. But I think the composition's really good. The general processing's really good. Love it. Probably my favourite shot of the few so far. Just hang fire on the sharpening a little bit. It'd really stand out if you got this printed. You just look at it and bang your head against the wall. Okay, so next one. Scale the Force. Fantastic waterfall up near Settle. So, yeah, classic composition really. Looks like it was medium flow. I mean, I actually think this is the best when it's quite a low flow. Two reasons. One is you don't get so much water here and there's more gaps, so it looks more like fingers and tendrils dangling down, white fingers, rather than this big flood bit here. And the other thing is you can get into the water and get really close to these mini waterfalls. So composition, yeah, classic normal sort of thing. I mean, I tend to go over to these stones here with a really wide lens and make these waterfalls look almost as big as the main one, but that's just the thing I do. That tree's always a real pain, but you've placed it nicely just out of view. So so that is something I see most days of my life, a massive great dust bunny. So in Lightroom, just 2 seconds. I think I saw one down this corner as well. Yeah. So you've got one jammed in the corner of your sensor by the look of it. So that's not done such a good job there, has it? Let's have a look. Yeah, it's not done the best job. Photoshop probably do a better job for you with that. If you just lassoed it and pressed Shift F5, it would do a cracking job. Quality wise, if I press the highlights warning, you've gone well over. So when you're shooting waterfalls, just keep checking your histogram. If it's bouncing off the end, you've gone over and you've lost detail. I mean, it's not a massive problem, but it did really stand out straight away when I looked at it. I mean, if we pull it down, see what happens. You get this, because it's gone. There's nothing to rescue there. Yeah, and also let's just have a quick look at the sharpness. Yeah, not bad. What lens are we using? F20. Right, so yeah, I can see why I used F20, trying to get a longer shutter speed, which is cool. A lot of lenses, when you get past F16, start to go a little bit soft, which may explain why these are a bit soft. But to get it pin sharp, get it on your tripod. Focus about 2/3 of the way, 1/3 of the way into the shot if you can, and also you need to use a cable release because it's 0.8 seconds. You're going to wobble it when you press the button. So either use a cable release or your timer. Give it like a 2-second timer, and you'll get a sharper shot. Right. Oops, we've got into the next one's time. So looks like a cathedral or church somewhere. I like the bikes. It tells a bit of a story. Could be a university town, Cambridge or York, that kind of thing. Yeah, looks to be HDR because you've managed to retain a bit of the sky there and detail in the stone. But when you zoom in, yeah, you can see it's moved. Can you see the edge of this? So when you've taken this shot, the camera's actually moved. It's a 20th of a second, so I'm guessing it was handheld at 20th of a second. You were shooting at f9 at 55mm. So the hand-holding rule is if you're going to shoot at 55mm, the shutter speed should be at least a 50th, if not a 100th of a second. So what you needed to do there was probably open the aperture up to f5.6 or put the ISO up to 400. That would have given you enough shutter speed not to get this blur. But I quite like the composition. I think the whetstones would come up quite. Let's just get some positive clarity on this. You could draw a little bit of clarity onto these, and it will bring up it's like a contrast effect. Okay, maybe a bit of sharpness, and highlights, make them come alive. But it's one for the bin, unfortunately, because it's blurred. There's not a lot you can do with it unless you put some weird old vintage effect on it to mask the fact it's blurred. Okay, and I think we've got one more. That tree. Right. So it's a malum tree, which a lot of my workshops end up on because it's a cracking location. You can't argue with it. So this looks like you're taking it from the opposite end to which most people take it from, and when I often take it from this side as well because the sun sets over here. Black and white. Let's have a quick look at the detail. Yeah, detail's not great down here. It's not bad on the tree. It looks to me like maybe a bit of noise reduction's gone on and taken the pattern out of the tree bark. You can see a little bit poking through there, but that looks like maybe a bit of overzealous noise reduction. Also, is it a little bit too close to the side of the frame? If you think about it, you are doing the rule of thirds quite good justice here, but it just feels a little bit too far to the left hand side. So let's just, what I'm doing here is just trying to make it a bit less on the left hand side by cropping, just to show you. Right, let's bring this down a bit. Oops, come on, behave. It's a bit of a weird tool, counterintuitive how it works sometimes. So now there's not the big gap on the side. It kind of feels better to look at it. You know, you've still got the trunk on the rule of thirds left hand side, and it's almost, yeah, it's pretty much on the intersection point there. So there's a cross, but it's not got this big gap. So you've got to think about balance when you're composing a shot. Let's just reset the crop. So reset. Press escape to exit it. And it's another one where focusing is a bit of an issue because whereas these should be like lovely crisp textured stones, it's gone quite soft. So I don't know whether that's because focus. Let's just have a look. 17mm, 80th of a second, f7.1. So if you want to get this shot nailed, as it were, what I'd recommend is maybe getting a bit lower down, use a tripod, focus somewhere around here, or maybe even a bit closer, get to f16, so you're getting as much depth of field as you can out of the camera, and then use a cable release or a timed shutter, you know, like a 2-second delay or a 10-second delay. That way you'll get more detail out of this stone, because the stone is as interesting as a tree if you get low enough down and make a subject out of it. Right, so that's 7 this week. Thanks to everyone for uploading them. Just have a quick whisk back through them. So what do we do with this one? Oh yeah, so just a little bit flat, so I was going to make it into something a bit more midnight and daring-ish. So this one was the Cyclist. I do like the road on this one, and the way it leads up to him. He's just a little bit on the static side for to be a great shot. Yeah, great shot. I like this one. I think getting a little bit more of the reflection may have been interesting. You don't know unless you've seen the shot or you're there at the time, but I think if you just cropped it up a little bit higher. Shot of the day for me, this one. Just a really nice, outstanding architecture piece. Just a bit over sharpened, which you can't tell at this level. And if you're editing on a laptop or something like that, you probably never notice it. But as soon as you zoom in, these little lines around the outside, it's just a classic, over sharpening thing. Scale of force, yeah. Just be a bit careful with the focusing and exposure. Use your histogram. If it's bouncing off the end, I'll show you what I mean when I say that. So I'll just up the exposure. So if you look at this graph here, if it's coming up, if it's got a big ramp at the end like this, you've gone too far, you've gone too bright. So all you need to do is reduce the ISO, reduce the shutter speed, or make the aperture smaller. That'll solve it. Yeah, a nicely composed sort of college style shot, probably with a Minster, but you've moved the camera mid shot. So yeah, can't do a lot about that. And this one, again, just concentrate on your sharpness. Get this. I mean, it may be sharp, and the noise reductions made it look blurry, but I think you're on the right path here, definitely. Okay, so that's that for this week. The folder for next week has been created. That's in Dropbox now. If you want to be part of it, just drop us an email at training@mcfade.co.uk, and I'll add you as a user on the Dropbox folder, and you can just copy some files in. Really easy to do. Should take you about between 10 seconds and 1 minute to enter into this. So there's no effort on your part. It's all mine. Great. Thanks for watching.